Issues of the economy coming under the spotlight on this day in terms of the money summit that is underway at the Sandton Convention Center. We see various economic role players, financial institutes as well, just coming through with those insightful conversations that will move the economy forward. What we've seen is already an issue of growth where the country stays right now. Frank talks around the impediments as we speak right now, and really if the personal finance can really move people forward, as we know very well that South Africa has a lot of people that are indebted, even those that are in the middle class. I'm going to bring into the conversation now the Standard Bank Chief Economist, Goolam Ballim, who will just give us a sense of really where we find ourselves right now. You were at that podium earlier on just giving us your contribution as Standard Bank. There's a lot that people have been navigating. The economy has not come through as it should. That 0.4% growth in the second quarter not really being able to inspire confidence in terms of where we come from. But we see these insightful conversations being had here. Frank talks around how we can move the economy forward. Let's get your impression we can move as a country. Welcome to the SABC.
Katlego, thank you for having me. Look, as you note, the conversations have been quite insightful and they're anchoring around a few things. I think foremost, people are curious as to whether the political center will hold. In other words, will the government of national unity hold? Will it have longevity? And will it be able to give effect to much of the sensible policy discussions we've had for years? The second observation I would make is people are talking about interest rates, whether we are on the cusp of a easing interest rate cycle, and I think we are. We will, in all likelihood, see a quarter-point interest rate cut later this month, and then another at least 0.75 of a percentage point of cumulative rate cuts over the ensuing months into 2025. But I think perhaps most notably, to the extent that there is this improving political economy cycle, that has the potential of unleashing the animal spirits of entrepreneurs, of businesses. And if we have a revival in the investment cycle, that will improve prospects with regard to employment and income generation throughout the economy. And I think the combination, therefore, of an improved income cycle along with an easing interest rate cycle will probably suggest better personal finance prospects over the ensuing quarters.
Let's talk about that personal finance. I mean, there's a lot that has been spoken about in terms of people being in debt, highly indebted, whether you're working or you're not, the middle class or not. Everyone else find themselves navigating this economy. As a bank, what have you been picking up? And do you see people saving? Do you see people investing? Do you see people as active in the economy as they should, looking at the growth that has not come through for us?
Katlego, it's an entirely legitimate question, where in a weak economy, amid tepid growth, and with unemployment generally rising, there has been an element of strain with regard to debt servicing. But I would add, though, that it hasn't been very substantial. Yes, pockets of strain, but we've not seen a very substantial surge, for example, in non-performing loans. And that speaks to perhaps the steady state of income. It speaks also to the overarching social safety net that South Africa enjoys, where a great deal of the fiscal engine, in other words, public sector money, flows to households, providing some level of cushion in times of distress. We know, for example, in the aftermath of COVID, the number of beneficiaries with regard to the social wage has surged way in excess of 20 million individuals. So that has provided some level of buffer. However, the heartbeat of your question is we need a growing economy to absorb more people into the labor market, and through that process to build lives out of income, and also build more sustainable debt profiles through elevated levels of income. And while the first quarter certainly was meek because we still were plagued by electricity shortfalls, the second quarter showing early promise that by and large load shedding is behind us. And I suspect prospectively, South Africa is not likely to experience power rationing. And combined with the early momentum we're seeing in the logistics arena, it's going to be a gradual recovery. Of course, we want it more spirited, but it's a little difficult when you have an athlete that has largely been a couch potato for a long while to simply start sprinting. It's going to be a gentle journey, but constructively, I'm happy that it it foretells an uptrend in economic growth over the ensuing quarters.
And just briefly, Goolam, before I let you go, financial literacy, can it move us? Can it actually come through for people in terms of their relationship with this money, how they move around with the money? There's little to play around with. The issues of financial literacy, can it really come through, even if it's from the bank or even financial institutions, for the men and women on the ground that have been struggling to navigate this economy?
Katlego, it's a critical question, and I really like the fact that you're seeking to urge people towards greater financial nous. And we live in an environment where access to financial literacy has surged, quite simply because of access to social media. There are a great deal of financial media personalities. I wouldn't place emphasis on the fin influencers, individuals on social media who claim and profess to have views, sensible views on personal finances. But that aside, I think simply getting access to very sensible financial information is so much more accessible. In other words, there's been a democratization of financial literacy in recent years as a function of social media engagements. And I think people are beginning to make more sensible choices. I also think that the landscape of financial advisors, especially in South Africa, has broadened across, dare I say, ethnic groups, making financial advice more accessible to certainly the broader community.
Goolam, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it this afternoon. Goolam coming through as a chief economist from Standard Bank, just breaking down some of those conversations that are being held here. Men and women are just coming through to come through with solutions really in terms of this Money Summit 2024. I'm Katlego Legodi for SABC News at the Sandton Convention Center.